I just fixed it in like 10 minutes. That's what I said. And the whole room went quiet, like dead silent. The CEO was staring at me like I just spoke a different language. And then he said the words that changed everything. Wait, you did that for free? Let me rewind, because I'm sitting in a glass conference room right now, looking at a contract that literally has more zeros than anything I've ever seen in my life. And it all started from a bug. A stupid, annoying bug. A few weeks ago, I was just another random junior dev trying to survive in this tech company. Nothing special, just fixing small tickets, trying not to mess up, keeping my head down. Then one day I noticed something. One of the main features on their platform was glitching. Not fully broken, but messy enough that users were complaining. Everyone was ignoring it, because technically it wasn't critical, so it kept getting pushed down the priority list. And I don't know why, but it kept bothering me, like I couldn't unsee it. So after work, I stayed a bit longer, just to take a look. No permission, no plan, just curiosity. 10 minutes turned into an hour. Then something clicked. I found the issue. It wasn't even complicated. Just a stupid logic error that somehow slipped through reviews. So I fixed it. Didn't think much of it. I just pushed the fix, wrote a quick note, and went home. No big deal. At least, that's what I thought. But the next morning, everything changed.
I walked into the office the next morning like normal. Coffee in one hand, headphones in, just trying to survive another boring dev day. But something felt off. People were looking at me, not in a, hey, what's up way, more like, yo, that was you way. I ignored it at first, tried to act normal, sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, started working. Then my team lead shows up, pulls me aside. No smile, no small talk, just, did you touch the production code last night? My stomach dropped a little, because now I'm thinking, okay, I messed something up. So I'm like, yeah, there was a bug. I fixed it real quick. He just stares at me for a second, then says, you weren't assigned to that, and you didn't file a request. And I go, I know, I just didn't want it to sit there. He doesn't look angry though. That's the weird part. He looks impressed, but also confused, like I broke some invisible rule they all follow. Then he walks me upstairs. And that's when I realize this isn't a small thing anymore, because suddenly I'm in a meeting room. Not my team lead, not just engineers, actual management. And the CEO is there, waiting. And he slides a report across the table. It shows the system before my fix and after. And the numbers are insane. Load time down, errors gone, user complaints dropped overnight. Then he looks at me and says, we've had this problem for months. And I just sit there thinking, I fixed that in 10 minutes.
The CEO leans back in his chair like he's trying to process what he just heard. Then he says, so you just decided to fix it? And I shrug a little like, yeah, it was annoying. That's when a couple of people in the room actually laugh. Not in a bad way, more like disbelief. Because to them, this wasn't annoying. This was a known issue. Something that had gone through meetings, tickets, prioritization, backlog grooming, all that corporate stuff. And I just walked in after hours and killed it in 10 minutes. One of the senior engineers finally speaks up. You understand this was scheduled for next quarter, right? I nod. And he's like, and you did it without breaking anything. That part hits different. Because now the room isn't laughing anymore. They're recalculating me. The CEO asks me to explain how I found it. So I do. Simple terms, no fancy jargon, just what I saw, what I tested, what I changed. And halfway through explaining it, I noticed something weird. People start taking notes. Like I'm not supposed to be the junior guy in the room. Like I'm actually useful in a way they didn't expect. When I finish, there's silence again. But this time it's different. Not confusion, interest. Then the CEO says something that makes my brain lag a second. What would you say if I told you this bug was costing us over 6 figures in lost efficiency every month? I literally blink, because I didn't know that. I just fixed something that annoyed me, and now they're telling me it was expensive. Really expensive. And that's when I start realizing something. In this company, problems don't always look important on the surface. But fixing the right small thing can quietly be worth a lot more than anyone expects.
After that meeting, I didn't even go back to my desk right away. They kept me there. Not like I was in trouble, more like they didn't want to let me leave. People were asking me follow-up questions, pulling up dashboards, showing me other small issues they'd been ignoring for weeks. And I just kept thinking, wait, there's more of this stuff everywhere? That's when one of the product managers says, honestly, we didn't expect a junior dev to even touch this area of the system. And I just look at him like, why not? He pauses, like that question doesn't get asked often. Then he says, it's sensitive code. We usually assign senior engineers. And I nod, but in my head I'm thinking, but nobody fixed it for months. That's the part nobody wanted to say out loud. Then the CEO stands up and says, let's take a walk. So now I'm walking through the office with him, which is insane, by the way. People are literally watching as I pass by. And he starts talking casually, like we're not in the middle of something huge. He says, we've been trying to improve internal speed for a while, but progress is slow. Then he looks at me, and you just saw something and fixed it in 10 minutes. I shrug again like it's nothing, but inside I'm starting to feel something shift. Because this isn't normal anymore. This isn't good job, junior dev. This is something else. We stop near a window overlooking the city, and he says, let me ask you something honestly. I look at him, and he goes, if I gave you access to more of the system, could you find more of these issues? And I just pause, because that question doesn't feel small. It feels like a door opening. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't know, but because I understood what that question really meant. It wasn't, can you fix more bugs? It was, can we trust you with more responsibility than your role says you should have? So I finally said, yeah, I think I can. Simple. No hype, no trying to sound smart. Just honest. And the CEO nods like he already expected that answer. Then he says something that kind of messes with my head. Good, because we've been missing people like you. That's when everything starts moving faster. Too fast, honestly. By the next day, I get access to a bigger part of the system. Not full access, but enough to actually see how things connect. And once I get in, I start noticing patterns. Not just bugs. I'm talking inefficiencies everywhere. Tiny delays, redundant processes, things that don't break the system but slow it down in ways nobody really measures. And the crazy part? Nobody was actively fixing them. Because on paper, everything was working fine. But in reality, it was leaking time, money, performance. I start documenting everything I find. At first, it feels like I'm just doing extra work, but then I realize something. This isn't extra work. This is value creation that nobody asked for yet. A few days later, I fix another issue, then another. Then I optimize a process that cuts load time by a noticeable margin. And suddenly, people start paying attention differently. Not just nice job, more like, wait, how did you even notice that? One senior engineer even tells me, you're not working like a junior. And I just laugh a little like, I'm just fixing what's annoying. But inside, I'm starting to understand something important. The difference between average and valuable is noticing what everyone else accepts as normal. And that's when the real shift happens. Because I get called into another meeting. But this time, it's not just feedback. It's a proposal.
I walked into that meeting thinking it would be another, good job, keep it up kind of talk. But the vibe was completely different. No small talk, no casual tone, just straight business energy. The CEO is sitting there with a folder in front of him, and for the first time, he doesn't look like he's just evaluating my work. He looks like he's evaluating me. He starts, "We've been tracking the improvements you've made over the last few weeks." I nod, trying to stay calm, but I can already feel where this is going. Then he slides the folder toward me. Inside is a breakdown. My fixes, my optimizations, the impact numbers. And I'm not gonna lie, seeing it all written like that felt weird, because I never thought of it as anything big, just small improvements. But on paper, it was stacked. Then he says, "Individually, these are small changes." He pauses. "And together, they've created measurable business impact." That's when one of the executives speaks up. "We ran the numbers. The efficiency gains, reduced downtime, and improved system flow, it's significant." I just sit there like, wait, seriously? Because nobody had ever talked about my work like that before, not like it had real financial weight. Then the CEO leans forward and says something I'll never forget. "Let me be direct. If you were doing this kind of impact externally, you wouldn't be a junior dev." Silence. And then he continues, "You'd be a consultant, or a lead, or someone we're paying a lot more to keep." That sentence just sits in the air, heavy, real. Then he says it, the thing I wasn't expecting at all. "We want to talk about changing your position and your compensation." My brain literally freezes for a second, because I came here thinking I fixed a bug, and now I'm hearing words like position change and compensation adjustment in the same conversation. And that's when it hits me. This wasn't just about code anymore. This was about value, and they finally saw it.
I didn't say anything for a few seconds. Not because I didn't understand, but because I was trying to process how fast everything shifted. A few weeks ago, I was just a junior dev who fixed something without asking. Now I'm sitting in a room where people are talking about my value like it's a business metric. The CEO slides a new document across the table. This time, it's not a report. It's an offer. Not just a promotion, a full restructuring of my role, lead-level responsibilities, access to core systems, ownership over performance improvements. And the number at the bottom? I had to read it twice, because it didn't feel real. One of the execs breaks the silence. "We don't usually move this fast, but we don't want to lose momentum or talent like this." And I almost laughed because a few weeks ago, nobody even noticed me. Now they're talking like I'm something they need to keep. The CEO leans back and says, "I want to be clear. This started with a free fix, but what we're actually paying for now is how you think." That line sticks, because he's right. It was never just about the bug. It was about noticing what other people ignored, turning "that's fine" into "that should be better." I finally signed the offer, not because of the money, but because for the first time, I'm not just executing tasks. I'm actually shaping things. A few days later, I'm sitting at my desk again. Same office, same system, but everything feels different now. People ask me questions differently. Engineers loop me into decisions. My work actually changes outcomes. And one night after everyone leaves, I stay a bit longer looking at the system dashboard, thinking about how it all started. One ignored bug, one small fix, one decision to care when nobody else did. And I realized something simple, but real. Most people wait to be told what matters, but sometimes the biggest opportunities come from fixing what everyone else accepts as good enough. And that's exactly how I went from just a junior dev to someone they couldn't ignore anymore.
Before you go, hit that like button and subscribe for more unbelievable stories just like this one. See you in the next story.